We're going to clear the
That's
air
it.
on this somehow. You watch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Ken Carey, 1941 Kent Avenue.
Ken Carey, that's it. Not Sharp. I'm
It's
sorry.
all right, I'm a pretty sharp guy anyway.
Okay.
I should be in Phoenix, Arizona playing baseball this week, but I'm not. Anyway, I coach baseball at State and High School. I own a home, I own a business. And for private property, we park maybe one truck a day on private property because of the revenue that business brings in isn't a lot for 2 trucks to be there. If I were to set up with Fusion in one location on private property at a small establishment, we're kind of shooting each other in the foot. We're in the business to make money. We're in the business to make our living. So on private property, maybe one vehicle will be there unless we're doing our food truck gatherings, which we started in May of 2017 on First and Water on the property of Jet Automotive. Dan, I appreciate your research. I did the same research you did about Portland. No food trucks are allowed in the core area. However, outside east of that core area, food trucks are permitted on the right-of-way no more than 24 hours. I grew up in Portland. I've seen the influx of food trucks. I've seen amazing amount of revenue brought into local neighborhoods such as Mount Tabor, the Sellwood, the Woodstock neighborhoods. Outstanding. These food trucks are no wider than a dually pickup that might park on a street on a right-of-way. I've seen many of those throughout our city. So I think, you know, we're kind of making a mountain out of a molehill, really, with all the questions tonight. I strongly feel that we can come to a resolution and, you know, whatever's voted on, I'll say, okay, let's move forward.
Okay.
So I just appreciate the council's deliberation, the insight, the thinking behind all this since we started this back in April or May of 2017.
Yeah, we
Thank
have
you.
been at this a while. Yes, certainly. In this free-for-all discussion that we're having, yes.
Carrie Fisk, Carrie Sessoms, 1501 East Burnett Street. Always Fisk, right? I just want to canter a little bit on the comparison to Portland is unfair. Portland is a very large city. We have 7,800 people in our community. I just feel that allowing businesses to use the right-of-way of the street opens up doors for all of us to say, okay, I'm going to permit that parking spot and sell burgers there today. Or for a local clothing store to say, I'm going to permit this parking spot and I'm selling hats on the street today. It just opens the door for people to kind of permit and do whatever they want whenever they want. I just don't think it's right. It's a street. We're supposed to drive on the street. A couple of the businesses that you're hearing from don't even live here. They don't spend their money here. They come and make money here and then they leave. I feel like we just need to take care of our community, the people that are here, and we welcome food trucks. I don't hate food trucks. I just don't think that they should be allowed to do business in the street. There's too much turmoil, there's too much gray. Who's going to hold them accountable? Who's going to write the tickets? Who's going to pay the ticket? What if somebody gets hurt? I mean, where are they going to put their garbage? Where are they going to go to the bathroom if that business isn't open yet and they're setting up their truck? I just feel like they need to be contained on private property, just like my business or anybody else's business. I don't get to operate my business in the street. I don't know why that seems like such a big deal. I just spent a week in Southern Oregon and Ashland, and there were food trucks everywhere. Hell, we ate at food trucks. But they were on private property. They were in parking lots. They were in the back behind businesses. They were near the river. They had big, beautiful tables set up. It was great. Not one single truck was on the street with people lined up, utilizing the street and the sidewalk. I just feel like we're opening a can of worms. I know that Snow Peak needs a food truck, or they would love to have a food truck in front of their business, but all of that should have been thought out. We all had to think about our business. We all had to write out a business plan. We had to look at so many codes, from the health department to signs to everything to make our business work. it'll be okay that they're across the street.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Carrie. Other thoughts? Go ahead.
Just one more thing.
Well,
Just one more, I swear, last time.
okay, get up close to that mic so I can hear. You've got a kind of a high
I'm
voice.
so sorry. So I just wanted to clear up a couple of things. One, we're fully insured, so any liabilities, any accidents or anything like that falls on a food truck because we're liable for anything that happens from our food truck. Most of us are insured for more than $1 million. As far as our trash goes, we all take it with us. We don't have a problem with that. We take it, we throw it away at our own usual residence. Bathrooms are usually established by the business we're working with. And as far as people feeling like there's going to be some kind of saturation of food trucks, in Salem, I actually schedule the food trucks for a lunch rotation. We all rotate. We don't want to step on each other's toes. We want to make sure there's variety for the community. So it's not like there's going to be some huge saturation all of a sudden of an influx of food trucks coming in from out of town, taking any income from here and not giving anything back. As an outside food truck business, we do spend money here in Staten. We come here, we hang out, we go to Wolfgang's, we go to different restaurants. And we do spend money here, and I just feel like the right-of-way is one thing, the pop-ups on the street, all of that can only create more business. People get excited when something new happens. They come out in droves to experience it, to spend their money, to have family time on something just a little different than going to the movies and grabbing a burger. You know, so it's only going to create more business if you set up on the sidewalk. If you go out just a little bit into the street, close the street for a day and have food trucks there. But on a consistent basis, people are more likely to go and spend their money if they can have a beer, have some food, a little entertainment. Most of the tap houses have entertainment as well. So
Okay,
I think that addresses all the things I was trying to address. Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Other thoughts,
Yeah.
questions here? Here we go, come on.
Dan, I noticed that mobile food unit actually isn't defined in ordinance 1039. Is there a reason for that, or is it just? That's it. That's all I got.
Mobile food unit is defined in another chapter of Title V, where we require we require that mobile food units be licensed, and that's where it's defined.
Right, and so part of the definitions with that is just that it serves food, not some of the concerns Ms. Sessoms had just now.
By definition, it is a motor vehicle that is set up to prepare and serve food. The definition specifically exempts an operation where the food is already prepackaged and you know, like the ice cream truck.
Right.
Where he pulls over and he opens the freezer door and he hands you a good buddy ice cream cone.
Gotcha.
He's not scooping it out of the container and putting it into the cone.
Thank you for explaining that. So in regards to the mobile food units section of this ordinance, did you envision quantity cap as far as how many permits would be issued, or just kind of?
No, staff did not, because as envisioned in the code, it would be up to a brick and mortar
Right.
business to come in and get a permit.
So it'd be at their own initiation, yeah.
Correct.
All right. And then as far as the business agreement idea that our council candidate out there mentioned, as far as that goes, what do you think of that? I mean, would that be something that would be doable and writable in an ordinance,
It would
hypothetically?
be something I would be hesitant to require in an ordinance. It's certainly, you know, any two entities doing business should have a written agreement about
Right.
what that means.
Yeah, so we'd probably put that on them in this hypothetical situation here. And then as far as the mobile food units, number 7, the use of the generator and all that, from an audible distance of 35 feet, you know, is that at a decibel level, or is that literally just audible to whoever? And that kind of, a lot of subjectivity there.
I purposely did not establish a decibel level. The city's code elsewhere, where it talks about noise control,
Yeah.
does not have decibel levels.
Oh, okay.
The city currently does not have a noise meter to measure decibel levels. And in my previous discussions with the previous police department administration, they were very happy not and preferred to not have specific decibel levels. But essentially, our noise standard today is don't disturb your neighbor.
Right. Yep.
And it seems to be working from the perspective of the police department, at least until now.
Ty, would that be something that you kind of concur on as far as not including a decibel level in an ordinance hypothetically like this?
Yeah, absolutely, because then we're going to have to establish parameters of where we
Right.
are standing to read that.
Yeah.
Because at the back end of a food cart may be only 20 feet from the front door of another business.
Gotcha. Okay. And then as far as the trash issue, Dan, that wasn't addressed in the ordinance because,
I don't think it's an issue we thought about. I mean, again, we've got other provisions of the city code that address leaving trash in the public right-of-way.
right. Okay. Well,
Okay.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate it.
Any other thoughts and questions on this as we slowly but surely try to move along? Go to a staff summary if there's no more gentleman in the back again.
I would like to mention about
Here.
the trash fountain that we have.
Yeah.
Because as all of the truck would have a Marion County business license,
Right.
so their trash regulation is you take all trashes with you and make sure all trash is picked up 20 feet around your truck.
Is that a health code provision that you're referring to? Or?
No, actually, it's the regulation. It's actually in the bylaws.
Yeah, it's
It's in the code.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good, thank you. Other thoughts? Shall we go to a staff summary? You ready for that? It's getting close to some decision-making here, folks. Dan, let's go to staff summary.
So, in summary, staff has presented you with two options, Ordinance 1038, or three options, really. Ordinance 1038, that would establish a regulatory program for sidewalk cafes and what we call sidewalk vendors. Ordinance 1039, which establishes regulations for doing business in the public right-of-way, which would include sidewalk cafes, sidewalk vendors, and food trucks. And the third option is to not adopt either ordinance and leave today's codes unchanged. Staff has thought about this issue quite a bit, particularly in the past 3 weeks since our last meeting. Staff strongly recommends Ordinance 1038 to you this evening, but you've got the option of adopting it as presented, adopting it with modifications, or sending it back for modification before you have your first consideration. And the same goes with Ordinance 1039. And again, the last option is leave the code unchanged.
Okay, is there anything else out there before I close the hearing? Please, no waving arms after the gavel falls. Hearing's closed. Thank you, Carrie. Yeah, I needed that. Council deliberation. Where do you folks want to be on this, if anywhere?
You know, Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
thank you. Yeah, I keep looking at my placemat here for the goals that we all set at the retreat, and I look at things like enhance community livability, support economic development, things like that. And I just feel like maybe we're missing the big picture here, and I'm wondering, do the residents of Stayton want this? Do the people who live here want this? I got to wonder that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
I agree with Counselor Patty. I mean, obviously, this has been going on for about a year now. This is, and it's about those very issues that makes it so complex, right? We know that this is, there's perceptions that we're not business friendly and that we want to be more business friendly. But to Carrie's point earlier, we also have a responsibility to the businesses that are here, the brick and mortar. So I've been all over the map on this in the last 12 months. So no matter which way we go, to Mr. Carrie's point, I appreciate your sentiments about whatever way we go that you'll support, because ultimately we're trying to do the right thing, and this one has been complicated. For the right reasons, it's been complicated. So thank you.
Are we,
Mr. Mayor.
Are we bothered at all by a couple of voices not here tonight? One new one that we'll have and one that's out on sick call. Is that altering our thoughts or perceptions or what we want to do here?
Not for me.
Not for me, no.
The sand is firm under our feet? Okay.
And
You
Mr.
had a
Mayor,
thought. Go ahead.
I can relate to all those sentiments as well. And Mr. Poisson brought up a good point, and it's something that I've been kind of thinking about as well, is that we have a specific business that has been coming to the council and has a specific issue that only pertains to their business. And we have said before that we shouldn't make a broad policy for everyone based on this one person. And yet, again, this is kind of what's happening is the situation was brought up because Snow Peak has a unique position, and I appreciate the fact that we have gone out and looked at, will this work for the whole community? So I appreciate that. But I think it kind of goes back to, are we trying to make a policy for a specific business? And that's something that is really in my mind. And then also, again, to Councilor Mullins' point, that these are the city of Stayton's property. This is all of our property. And then we are going to permit a business to then either do business on the street or permit another business to do business on what should be, all of our property. So that is also something that is kind of something that I'm thinking about and weighing on my mind.
Yep.
Moving right along. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, one thing, the comparison is not lost on me with this situation and what happened with Mick and Mons. And kind of where I'm thinking on that is, I don't seem to remember us imposing a smoking ban on downtown. I mean, last I heard, we have a committee who's trying to figure out a feasible solution. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Reconvene that committee,
You just had to bring that back up.
Yeah,
Thought we could get through one council without smoking being mentioned.
Or more committees, yeah.
But one thing that I do hear that's kind of concerning to me is other businesses that may have a food truck or excuse me, a mobile food unit parked in front of them without their consent or buy-in. And so with that, that's one piece of this ordinance I'd like to see included if we were to enact it tonight, is to ensure the consent of businesses that the mobile food units are in front of are indeed consenting to that. So.
Mr. Mayor?
Where do you want to be?
Well, Councilor Patty, so are you saying, because the business is the one that gets the permit, and then they're the one that has to say, okay, you can park in front of my business.
Right.
So can you?
And if there's any overlap in that part, I mean, as Lance so eloquently
So the
pointed
parking
out,
lots, if they overlap, okay.
Right, yeah, that's where I'm thinking on that.
Okay.
So,
Other considerations? Do you folks
for me,
even thinking about wanting to vote or do something with these things tonight?
Mr. Mayor, for all those reasons I've discussed, I would like to move that we approve Ordinance 1039 with the modification that any business owner that the mobile food unit is in front of, to include overlapping businesses, are consenting to this.
So that's a first consideration of 1039?
Right.
Okay. Not going to do anything with 38?
No, I feel like that's kind of
Okay.
pointless, considering the content of 38 is also included in 39.
Is that correct?
Okay.
So the sidewalk vendors, other sidewalk cafes. Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at something different. Okay, so ordinance 1038 unmodified, ordinance 1039 with the modification that the business owner that overlaps would be consenting to that.
So 1038 and 9 with a modification on 39 that the owner,
The council should, all of the contents of 1038
Okay.
is included in 1039. So there's no reason you should be choosing one or the other,
Yeah. So I
Or
thought-
none.
Like-
or neither.
Right. So in that case, it would just be 1039 with the addition that I mentioned, and that would be first consideration with that modification.
okay, I've got a motion to approve the first consideration of ordinance 1039 with a modification that,
The business owner that the mobile food unit is parked in front of is consenting to their parking in front of them.
seems like a given, but okay. It's with a modification that the mobile food units seek approval.
So this would be in a situation where there's two different businesses that the mobile food unit is in front of.
Okay.
The second business where it's overlapping and not the permit seeker would be consenting to that.
Okay.
All right, I'd like to point out that if you look at ordinance 1039, in proposed section 552070, which is the requirements for the application, the information to be included in the application, on page 5 of 6, paragraph 10 says, if seeking to operate a mobile food unit in the street right-of-way,
Oh, forgive me, I missed the 150 feet.
written consent from the operators of businesses within 150 feet of the proposed site of the mobile food unit
Yep.
shall be included as part of the application.
Well, then I would just remove my modification then and say approve the first consideration of 1039 with no
Okay.
modification.
I have a motion then to approve the first consideration of ordinance 1039. Is there a second? And I don't hear a second, so the motion dies for lack of one. Would someone like to try something else?
Mr. Mayor,
Chris?
I make a motion to approve ordinance 1038 with modifications that would speak to if the brick and mortar owner wants to rescind the permit at some point before the year.
Can we just say approve the first consideration of 1038 with modifications?
That's
No,
what I'm saying.
that's what he said, but he specified what the modification would be, to add a provision for the
Rescind.
permit holder
To
to give it up
rescind.
before the end of the year.
Okay. Is that clear enough in the record that will be okay? No?
I'm sorry, is that ordinance 1039 or 1038?
1038.
38, okay.
So would not allow food carts, but it would allow the owner of a sidewalk cafe
Yeah.
to get an annual permit and 6 months later say, oh, I don't want this anymore, I'm giving it back.
Is that
Yes,
the intent of your motion?
that's the intent of my motion.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Is there a second?
We can't ask a question until we do
What's
something with it, right?
What's that now? I can't do anything unless we get a second on this, or if nobody's going to second it, it dies for lack of one.
I'll second it.
Okay, a motion is seconded. Discussion?
It's just a real quick, so they're revoking their own permit then? They're going to say, no, I don't want to have a sidewalk cafe anymore? That's what you're saying?
Well, it was my understanding that in 1038, that they could allow someone else, no.
No, it's just theirs.
Okay. So yeah, they could just end the permit early, which the chances of that would be pretty small. So we could let that one die and just go with 1038 then. But we already have a second, so,
Okay, I'm rescinding my second.
okay. I'll rescind my motion.
So we're back to square one
And I will
again?
restate, Mr. Mayor,
Okay,
I make a motion to approve the ordinance 1038 as presented.
okay. I have a motion to approve the first consideration of ordinance 1038 as presented. Is there a second?
I second.
And a second. Discussion.
Well, while I would prefer to see mobile food units in here, I still think that the ordinance is pretty good with the sidewalk cafes. I don't have an issue with it. That's all I'll say.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Are you ready for a
I
question?
do have, I do just, well, yeah.
Get it?
I mean,
Get it going. Come on.
I like this the way that it's written, and so this isn't something, so if a few years down the line, if we change our minds and we want to have something like 1039 and allow it, then that's not something, it's not saying that this can never be brought up again. We're just saying
It's
that
just-
we're not doing it right now.
It's just not doing it
I
tonight.
don't feel comfortable with all the, we were talking about ambiguity earlier, and I feel like that is a kind of a theme that's happening throughout the evening, and I feel like there's just a lot of ambiguity going on with that, and
Okay.
and I don't feel comfortable doing that yet.
Okay, that's fine. All right. Is there any other discussion? And if not, Chris, did you have another one?
Nope.
Alyssa, would you poll the council, please, on this?
Sure. Counselor Ort?
Yes.
Counselor Patty?
Yes.
Counselor Mullen?
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
3-0, okay. Okay, done with that.
Can I ask what passed?
Ordinance 1038.
38.
That's allowing for trucks in the...
No. You gotta
No, it's the cafe, outdoor
Sidewalk
cafes, sidewalk cafes.
allowing businesses to have tables
Like
up front.
a place,
I see it.
Okay.
a place called the Covered Bridge Cafe could have an outside table.
Cafe.
Okay, general business, and thank you folks for your patience this evening and willingness to participate. General business inventory of city-owned property. Mr. Flashman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the city council's adopted goals, as has been referred to.
Whoa.
Perfect. Well, almost perfect.
You can see the power bill.
That's a little more straight, but anyway. Was to complete an inventory of city-owned property. You've got in your packet a city-owned property inventory that actually was compiled, first compiled, I believe, in 2011 or so, that provides a description of each of the parcels of land that are owned by the city of Stayton. In aggregate, the city owns 52 different parcels with a total of 177 acres. They range in size from 32 square feet, which is about the size of a sheet of plywood, to 52 acres. 11 parcels are used as parks, 16 are used as various public works facilities, 11 are used as street right-of-way, but are not dedicated as right-of-way, and there are 14 other parcels that we've just included as other, or perhaps aren't used at all. My slideshow is not all 50 whatever parcels, but highlights our parks, our public works facilities, and a few other pieces of property. So There are, I think it's 9 parks in the city, some of which are multiple tax parcels. Santiam Park up in the Santiam Station development was obtained at 2 different times, 2003 and 2008, for combined 0.8 acres. Mill Creek Park, we just obtained now 2 years ago on Kindle Way, 23 acres for a future park. Wildlife Meadows Park was dedicated to the city with the Wildlife Meadows subdivision. It's about 3.5 acres. Quail Run Park from the early 1990s is 2 acres. Westtown Park from the 1970s is 1 acre in Westtown. Community Center Park goes back to the early 1950s. 7.5 acres, includes the library, the community center, the pool, tennis courts, and open fields. Pioneer Park, sometimes also referred to as Neatling Park and Pioneer Park, but it's really all just one park, obtained 2 different times, or 3 different times, starting as early as 1936. And we picked up additional land in 1990 when the Neatling addition to the park was added, and then in the late 1990s there was a dedication as part of the Pioneer Meadows subdivision for the acreage on the very east side of the park at the corner of 9th and East Burnett. What's currently the dog park on the corner of 4th and Florence. North Slope Park up near Dawn Drive, behind the Methodist Church. And River Park at 52.2 acres, obtained back in 2001. Public Works facilities include our wastewater treatment facility at the end of Jetters Way, 18.5 acres. The water treatment plant, which 31 acres on South First Ave. The Pine Street Water Reservoir. The Schedule M Reservoir. The Regis Street Standpipe. Public Works shops, the City Hall, theater, police building complex, you can see is 4 different tax parcels. The municipal court building and parking lot, the Florence Street parking lot. And then under miscellaneous properties, we have 352 East Florence Street, which we obtained in 2007 and is currently leased to the Staten Moose Lodge. There are 3 tax parcels at the south end of North Oak Avenue. 2 tax parcels down off of Maple and North Evergreen Avenue. And a bunch of other miscellaneous pieces. There's a number of tax parcels that were, as I said, are used as street right-of-way, or they are 1-foot strips of land at the end of a street right-of-way that were given to the city instead of being included in the street right-of-way. I think the idea at the time may have been to not provide access to neighboring property from the street or whatever. I would suggest that it may be appropriate for staff to do a review, and perhaps those pieces of those parcels that are used as street right-of-way, to dedicate them as right-of-way and have them disappear as tax parcels. They would no longer be owned by the city. They would be dedicated to the public, so that may make a difference. I don't know. That's something to discuss with legal counsel. And also to look at parcels that we do not have an identified use for, and to determine whether we should continue to hold on to them if we don't have a use for them, or can we declare them to be surplus property and make them available to purchase either by neighboring property owners or somebody who may be interested in some type of development.
Okay. All right.
So that's, so, you know, this is on the agenda just as an informational item. It's not necessarily an action item by the council tonight, but I just posed those questions to you that perhaps if council wants to provide direction, staff could be looking into these two issues.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Were there any public comments on any of that? Certainly food for thought on the surplus properties, and good information. That Schedule M property, which is an unused water tank, how we might utilize that has been a subject of some discussion. Anyway, anything else? Communication from mayor and councilors?
Mr. Mayor,
I don't have anything else to say.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question about this.
Okay, well, jump in there whenever you can.
So Dan, the difference between being a right-of-way or being owned by the city, specifically, is that we as the city could choose to do something with it as opposed to it being a right-of-way and then it goes under those standards. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Technically, the streets in the city, with perhaps a few exceptions, are not owned by the city of Stayton. When the subdivision was created, the land in the street was dedicated to the public.
Okay.
Okay.
And the city of Stayton is the road authority for those streets, and we take care of them and maintain them. But we do not hold a deed to the land out front of City Hall on North 3rd Avenue. Or, again, there may be a few exceptions that there was a deed and it wasn't dedicated as part of a subdivision, but any street that was part of a platted subdivision, there's not a deed to the city. It is a statement from the subdivider, I hereby dedicate the streets to the public.
Thank you for the clarification.
Mr. Mayor.
Anything else? Yes, go ahead.
Keith, have we discussed with legal counsel about surplusing these properties that could be put into the right-of-way? Or what's our plan of action on this, as it is an only informational?
Well, I mean, I think there is a chance for sort of feedback on what you would like to do. If you'd like to discuss this more or have us pursue something like that, it's definitely something we can do. We have not had any specific discussions at this point with legal counsel. Dan, have we done it in the past? I mean, not since I've been here.
When I first got here and saw we had these little strips of land here, there, and everywhere that had a street in them but weren't dedicated as street, I said, why don't we dedicate it? And the city attorney at that time, a different city attorney than we have now, said, well, there's no reason to. The city, by not dedicating it, as Councilor Ort suggested, it's city-owned property. We can do with it as we wish, as opposed to once it's dedicated, we would need to go through a vacation process, and then state law says it goes to the neighboring property owners. It doesn't mean that it's ours again. On the other hand, they are used as street rights away. I don't see any purpose in holding them in our portfolio of property. There may be some that it makes sense to hold on to, but for the most part, you know, these little 1-foot strips at the end of a street.
Right.
Or I'm thinking of the little stretch along North 3rd Avenue where my guess is that the developer came in with a plat that said the street was going to be here and then built the street over there, and then so gave us a little strip of land so that we owned the street after they put it in the wrong place.
How generous.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Mayor.
Other thoughts on that?
I realize this is just informational, but I would want to see those, given to the public. It seems like an issue that we can just fix pretty easily, and let's do it. You know, that's what I'm seeing here. Again, we're not taking a vote; it's informational only. But
Okay. Some guidance there?
Do we need as a
Yeah, I mean, if you
council
guys,
to
if you guys
ask
as
to
a
move
council
forward?
agree with that, I think, I mean, just even just informational, if you say, we'd like to see what that would look like, I
Yeah.
think you can, if I get a majority as per your council rules that say, pursue this, let's do
Okay.
it.
Yeah, there's those specific ones that, yeah.
Okay. Communications from mayor and councilors. I do not have anything else this evening. Do you folks? Now, here's a chance.
Wait, do we still need to do that?
I think you can at this
One.
point to say,
Right.
you know, I think,
Two.
is there a majority of the council here that would agree that you would like to see us bring back some suggestions on what to do with these properties?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
Okay, yes.
yes.
We just
Thank you.
did that. Okay. Thoughts from councilors?
Mr. Mayor, yes. This is a little hard because sometimes there's things that are brought up at the beginning of the meeting, and public comment isn't meant for us to go back and forth, and I completely understand that. But then there's sometimes things that we want to address, and then unfortunately, those people don't stay for the whole meeting, so that's a little unfortunate. I did want to address something that was brought up in regards to Phillip Estates subdivision, and there's been lots of rumors going around and what happened with it, and so I know that I'm not the only one that's talked to Keith about it and kind of pushed for us as a city to have a response back to just say, hey, this is what happened. And so it wasn't, I don't know who specifically put it out on Facebook or on our website or whatever, but I know that it was at least at my suggestion to have that information out to the public to say, hey, this is what happened, this is what's going on. And it wasn't, I don't know, I feel like the way that it came across earlier was that it was specifically Keith, and it was, the way that it came across was not
Counselor,
the way that,
where would rumors
should've
come
been.
from when it's a straightforward account of years of back and forth between
Well, but
things that have
that's-
happened out there? It's all in a record. It's not, there's no reason for, how can you have rumors about just what is factual information? Boom, boom, boom.
well, exactly, but until we put that out there, I feel
Well,
like
it's
that's
out.
where the rumors came from, and
But it's been out there for what, months now?
I think it's about 2 months ago
Yeah.
that we released the documents related to
Yeah.
the Village Estate matter on our website.
This is what are we at, year 4, year 5?
It was about 5 years ago right now that
Yeah.
the stop work order was first
October or
put
so
out.
of 14 or 15.
So October 14.
But I want to make it clear that this was something that Keith even was like, no, we don't need to put this out there. We don't need to air the dirty laundry. And we were like, no, we need to set the record straight. And I know I'm not speaking for anyone else on the council, but I don't think that I was the only one that suggested it. And I think that you're doing a fine job. So thank you.
It's okay.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Someone comes to my council meetings month after month, and they get up there and suggest that they are perfectly capable of investigating and understanding and working through information, and yet they have all this in front of them and act like they don't get it, or they don't believe it. Like we've made up 4 or 5 years of interactions in I'll admit, a sort of, more than sort of, a contentious relationship. And it's all there. It's court records, it's depositions. And this person comes to my meetings, and I know how to read all this stuff, and yet what do you do with it? You read it, but you don't believe it? We've made up 5 years of lies to make some developer look bad?
Mr. Mayor, to my point, that's not what I'm trying to get across here. I'm just trying to say that this was not a, this was a kind of a group decision and not necessarily a Keith thing. And it's, we don't want to sit here and play whack-a-mole the entire time with rumors that fly around, but we also want to set the record straight with certain things that happen. And so that's where I was getting with that. And I'm not, and this was a specific case.
I don't need to go back over all that.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead.
On a lighter note, and to talk about a Keith thing, I just want to go ahead and compliment whoever put together the city-owned property descriptions with the GIS mapping, and this is really good and very informative. I just want to say I appreciate the heck out of this, and whoever put this together, nice job.
Dan deserves the credit for that, so.
Good job, Dan. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
So it's not a Keith thing.
It works a lot better when it's not on a letter size page.
Yes. Anything else before we go to communication from city staff?
Yes,
Jump
Mr.
in there,
Mayor.
quick.
So this past Saturday at Moxie Berry, we had a coffee with a counselor. It was from 9:30 to 11:30, and we had a few people show up. Randy, neither of them are here. We had a couple people show up, and that was nice to get to talk to people, and that's something that we want to do more often is in order to be accessible to the public. So, and we were planning on doing it at different businesses around town as well. So keep an eye out for that when it comes up, and we will always notice it as a public meeting since the goal is to have the counselors there and be accessible. So we will technically have a quorum at that point. So thank you. And thank you to all of you for being accessible to that. So,
I'm always accessible if I'm home.
Mr. Mayor, you're always
I'm home a
welcome.
lot. In fact, most of the time. Anything else from us before we go to city staff? Keith?
I don't have anything tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Future agenda items, City of State and Employees Years of Recognition Service, 2018-19 fiscal year end presentation, Sewer Master Plan award of bid. It has been a long evening. I want to introduce to the council and staff my lovely daughter, Penelope Doss, who lives in the Rustburg, Lynchburg, Virginia area, out here visiting and helping her mom and I as we've experienced some difficulties. But we're good for tonight. We got through it.
Thanks, Dad.
You're welcome, dear.
Wasn't that fun?
Nice to meet you.
Best 2 hours of your life?
Let's go home. Thank you, folks.